Right, first things first, I am not going to cover those still video hybrid cinemagraphs where you've got a still photo that's kind of integrated or merged with an actual moving video component. I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of those, but I'm not going to say I am a fan of those either. It's just each to their own, and obviously if you're into it, that's totally cool. But about a year ago, I went to the movies and I saw this massive digital poster for an upcoming blockbuster. I can't remember what the movie was, but I remember being taken aback by what I was seeing, and I had to take a double look. I had to look again. It was a Ken Burns-esque cinemagraph. I'm not quite sure if that's what the original cinemagraphs were, but when I did some very light research, they mostly involve a still with a video component within it, and I didn't really see much or anything actually that mentioned Ken Burns, but from what I saw on that digital poster, that's definitely what I was seeing. Got a bit of an unsettled, I was intrigued to say the least. So yesterday I took an okay photo and I decided that this was the photo that I was gonna try this effect with. Right, I've already done this as you can see, and I'll take you through my steps. I have the base background layer, which is my photo, and as you can see I duplicated this 2 more times to make layers above. Ignore this top layer, it's a tiny crop. Okay, let's take a look at what's happening with each of these photo layers. At the base here, I have the photo, and we've keyframe animated this to have a zoom in effect. So I started here at a scale of 28, and we end here at a scaled in value of 29.2. Now, depending on your photo size, these scaling values may differ for you. I do, however, recommend that you consider keeping this subtle and not too harsh of a scale. You want the viewer to notice something's up, but you want them to second guess and to keep looking. Now, the second layer is where we apply the masking. For this example, I masked the subject and the leaves that were more or less in focus. And let's enable that so you can see it. It seems overwhelming, but all I did was mask the subject and the leaves in focus. Let me disable the background for a second so you can see what is masked. See, subject and leaves. Bring that back. And for this one, I set the feather to 41%. And if we zoom in here, note that I made some effort to have the inner aspect of the feather touch the objects that were being masked. Needless to say, this took a while. And for this layer's animation, I essentially did the opposite as with the first layer. I created a zoom out effect for this particular one, and I set my start scale to 29.5 and my end scale was 28.5. So a similar amount of zoom in the opposite direction. The location of the keyframes match, as you can see as I click on each of these 2 layers, but their scale values, though similar, are not identical and they're reversed. Of course, each photo will do best with its own specifications, and I'm sure you can figure yours out with some playing around. Now, for some photos, I'm sure these 2 layers are enough. I wasn't loving it as I felt it looked a little forced, so I added a 3rd layer. This one had no animation, but the scale was set to the scale value of the second layer's start point, in our case 29.5, and I edited the mask to only include the subject. Now, I know this is overwhelming, but it's the exact same mask as the layer below, but I highlighted all the points that were relevant for the subject mask and I moved them over kinda like this. So what I recommend you do is once you've finished your second layer step, let me show you with the side example, which I'll delete after. So once you're done with the second layer, duplicate that layer and untoggle your animations. Set the scale to the value you want, in my case it was 29.5, to match my first scale value of the second layer. And we have our mask that we can now edit as needed. Once that is done, we have our subject remaining static in frame, the in-focus elements zooming out, and the background is zooming in. If you want to have this looping back and forth, you can duplicate your layers. You'll notice that photos can't be time manipulated, so nest each of them, right-click, nest, time and speed duration, and reverse. Repeat for each, and I repeated this as you can see here for a loop. I think there's a lot that can be played around with this type of editing, and as I mentioned before, I think we can refer to it as a Ken Burns inspired cinemagraph or something of that sort. If you end up playing with this with your own photos, let me know in the comments below, share the photos with me. It would be cool to check them out. If you found that you learned something, if you found this video helpful, if you found this entertaining, feel free to give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.